Who are the best quarterbacks in the NFL going into the 2025 season? Well, I'm going to rank 53 different quarterbacks by putting them into tiers, which you can see on the screen now. Let me explain the tiers. So first we have the elite tier. This is the best of the best, the cream of the crop. I am limiting this to only 2 or 3 guys because if you have more than that, then it isn't really elite anymore. And these guys are the best quarterbacks in the league, no questions asked. Then we have the great tier. These are quarterbacks who maybe aren't top 3, but are comfortably top 10, and maybe even some of them are top 5. These guys are franchise quarterbacks. They've got the physical and the mental tools to be great NFL quarterbacks, a lot of them consistently great. Then we have the good tier. 1 or 2 or 3 of these guys might push into the top 10, but these are guys who are generally fine as starters. They might not win you games, but they also won't lose you games. They might lack the physical tools and or make mental errors, which keeps them in that good tier and prohibits them from getting into that great tier. Then we have the replacement starter level tier. If you're not good, you're not great, and you're not elite, in the NFL, you're probably going to get replaced. It's a quarterback-driven league. You can get an upgrade at quarterback in the draft. Those are the guys that are probably going to get upgraded or they could be removed down to good backup quarterback. These are guys who are, just a step below replacement level starter. They're not going to be a bridge quarterback, or a team's not going to sign them to start for them in a pinch. They are going to be backups. And then we have replacement level backup, probably more of a third string quarterback. Now, there's 2 really important pieces of context that I want you to understand for this. First of all, this is a list for the 2025 season only. So age will come into it a little bit. If a quarterback's fallen off a cliff with their arm, with their decision making, that does play. But in terms of extrapolating to 5 or 10 years or even 2 years in the future, age isn't going to really come into it then. And secondly, there will be projection here, both of good trends, making a quarterback better than they might be currently, or bad trends. If a quarterback is on the downturn, I'm not going to look too far into their past to determine if they're going to bounce back. So there will be some quarterbacks here who are less experienced that will be ranked ahead of quarterbacks who historically have played better. So just understand that. Now, before we get into what could be for some of you a generational hate watch, because I know that nothing gets fans blood pumping like questioning the capability of your starting quarterback, but make sure you subscribe for more NFL offseason draft content. There's going to be loads coming this offseason, so make sure you subscribe to stay in the loop. So without further ado, we are going to start with Aaron Rodgers. We're just going to put him here in this replacement starter tier just to begin with, so we know who we're talking about. Now, he is one of the GOATs, no doubt. Where's he going to play next year? I've said the Pittsburgh Steelers. At the moment, at the day of recording this 13th of May, we do not officially know, but we suspect there's probably been some sort of deal behind closed doors with Rodgers and the Steelers, and that way he doesn't have to go to training camp. Now, on the field, Rodgers really didn't play as badly as, first of all, the Jets' record suggests, or really as the rest of the Jets team and how they performed suggests. Now, mentally, he did get got a few times last year, got done by a safety blitz against the Cardinals. That kind of ended that game. And then in London, at a game that I was at and I saw personally, he also got done by Brian Flores multiple times. He threw 3 interceptions in that game, 4 turnover-worthy plays. Now, his arm is still there. It's not awful. It's not fallen off a cliff, but clearly, it's not quite what it was. His big-time throw percentage, a big-time throw is a tight window throw deep down the field, was the worst of his career, barring those injury years, which he's had, at just 4.2%, which was 18th in the league. Now, Aaron Rodgers, even in a down year, is still an average quarterback in the league, but not quite what he was. Now, the ball placement for me is the biggest concern with Rodgers. That really took a step back. And off-platform throws especially. Versus Seattle, he missed a wide-open Garrett Wilson in the end zone, and I think the play after that was a pick six. That was a 14-point spin there, and that was an Aaron Rodgers layup touchdown. He's made countless of those in his career. Just was missing on routine Rodgers throws, I would say. And per Pro Football Reference, he was below the league average in terms of accuracy percentage. He was literally the next one after the average, but that was at 75.5%. So he was below the average there. Previously, Rodgers has not been that kind of quarterback. Off the field, though, this guy's a coach killer, right? I don't like what he brings to the locker room. I think he creates problems in the media. He's always on the Pat McAfee show, even though he says he hates talking to the media, but is consistently talking to the media. I just think Rodgers as a character off-field has to be considered here, right? If we're thinking about our one-year outlook, we saw what he was like at the Jets. He wasn't a net positive. That's going to be factored in here. Now, he's still capable of great games, still capable of great throws. Is he capable of great seasons? I don't think so anymore. Personally, he might prove me wrong, and this might hurt some people because I know what quarterbacks will probably be ranked ahead of Rodgers, but I'm only going to put him in this good tier. He will be at the top end of it, don't get me wrong. Like I said, still capable of good play. Just don't know if he's capable of consistently great play, and that's what I'm looking for someone in the great tier. Now, the next player we have is Michael Penix, the quarterback for the Falcons. Limited sample size with Penix, only 114 dropbacks last year, but had a 9% big time throw percentage. That's higher than Josh Allen's, and he only had 2 turnover-worthy plays. This guy was not playing like Jameis Winston's 40 for 40 season. He wasn't just tossing it up into double coverage and getting away with it. Michael Penix was playing like the college player, like the player he was in college, which is where he also span it, had a really high big time throw percentage there too at 7%. So it's not just a flash in the pan play-wise style. He did have iffy mechanics, which resulted in a few wayward throws, but I think there's a lot to feel good about. Now, the question is, does he go ahead or behind of Rodgers? Realistically, let's put him behind. I think the legacy does help Rodgers there a little bit, but I think genuinely, guys, for 2025, it's close if we knew but it is limited sample size. Rodgers has historically been better. Let's go the safer pick here. Let's not ruffle too many feathers with the early start. Now, Jared Goff. Lions fans, we've had our differences. I've definitely been a Jared Goff doubter, but I think we've kind of seen what Goff is, and I think he's proved me wrong in doing that. He was Sean McVay's puppet in LA. Sean McVay was calling all the plays at the line of scrimmage. Goff was standing there like he was absolutely clueless. He was then thrown to the Wolves in Detroit, one of the hardest quotes of all time, and then he came back leading the pack. I absolutely love that. Now, Goff is a hyper-efficient, does what he needs to do quarterback. And honestly, I think there's a lot to be said for that. With how volatile quarterback play can be in the league, having someone that isn't going to lose you games is genuinely pretty valuable, I think. Now, equally, Goff is not the type of quarterback that can win you games. And we saw what can happen with Goff if he kind of reverts back into the old school pumpkin style of Jared Goff. In the game against Washington at the end of the season, he had 4 turnover-worthy plays, 3 interceptions. That really can't happen if you're a quarterback who plays like Jared Goff. You need to be consistent. And I am worried about him losing Ben Johnson, and he's got a really small margin for error given how he plays physically and his physical limitations. But he is an incredibly efficient quarterback. He led the league in completion percentage over expected plus EPA per play last year. So I'm going to put Goff in the good tier, and I'm going to put him in between Rodgers and Penix. Now, Bo Nix. I said post-draft rather, that Nix would operate Sean Payton's system well. Sean Payton wants someone that can make all the throws, he can be efficient, he can avoid negative plays, which is sacks and interceptions, and Bo Nix did that, right? He ticked all the boxes that Payton looks for in a quarterback. He was 39th in pressure to sack rate. That is how many times does a pressure become a sack. And as a quarterback, not getting sacked is a massive part of playing the position because sacks are an absolute drive killer, could be even game ending depending on the down and distance and the situation in the game. And he was really good at that at Oregon too. So again, another quarterback that really continued his play style from college to the NFL. Now, the term system quarterback is a bit divisive. It gets thrown around. It's seen as a negative. I really don't think it is. I think all quarterbacks to a degree, apart from maybe the elite ones, are system quarterbacks, right? They have to be. And I think Bo Nix is the perfect example of a positive system quarterback. I think he plays well within what he's given. I think it's a great match for his skill set and what the system's after. Not sure about his ceiling, but I think his floor is probably his rookie season. So I'm going to put him, would I have him ahead of Jared Goff? I think Michael Penix ahead of Goff is a bit crazy. So let's go like this. That's what we're going to go with for now. I like that. And the rankings within the tiers, by the way, are loosely how I would rank them as well. I think so far I feel quite good about that. I need to see more from Penix. Now, Kyler Murray is the next quarterback up. I'm a Kyler Murray truther. I think this guy has the physical tools. He's got the arm. His rushing ability is also great. When Kyler plays as good as Kyler can play, I think he's a top 7 quarterback in the league, no questions asked. Like against the Rams in week 2, he was on fire last year. Genuinely so good. And you get like 1 or 2 of those games from Kyler every year, but it is super inconsistent. It really is. In 2024, he wasn't quite getting through his reads. If the first read wasn't there, he'd be taking off. And as a result, he really wasn't on the same page with Marvin Harrison Jr. That has to change in 2025. I just think Kyler's criminally underrated. I think, yeah, there's a projection here, but I'm planting my flag. I think in 2025, he's gonna be great. I think he's going to be great in 2025. I would take him ahead of those 4 guys on that list, definitely, 100%. Now, Joe Burrow. The aura Joe Burrow has is bonkers. It is genuinely off the charts. Joe Shiesty, Joe Burrow, the Tiger King. This guy's a cold-hearted killer, man. I absolutely love Joe Burrow. The Bengals pass the most in the NFL because they have arguably the best pure passer in the game in Joe Burrow. Now, yes, Burrow doesn't have the physical tools like an Allen or a Lamar or a Mahomes, doesn't have the arm strength of someone like Justin Herbert. The physical tools really aren't there. But as a pure passer, he's absolutely elite, frankly. It's just his brain, really. Like, it's just him seeing the field differently. He had 37 big time throws. That's a 5.3% big time throw rate. Looks after the ball as well, only a 1.9% turnover worthy play rate. That is putting the ball in harm's way, basically at risk of getting intercepted. And the Bengals can put up 30 points a game pretty easily because of Joe Burrow. Yes, he's got Jamar Chase. Yes, he's got T. Higgins. I'd be remiss in acknowledging that. But he's also got a terrible defense, a bad offensive line, and no real run game. So I think that kind of balance is out there. Joe Burrow is going to comfortably be my QB4. Not quite elite. I don't think he's just not quite as good as those other 3 guys. Spoiler alert, I'm going to have ranked ahead of him. But he is right there, I think. And Joe Burrow, man, I absolutely love this guy. Comfortably QB4 100%. Now, CJ Stroud. As a Texans fan, I can unfortunately admit the sophomore slump is real. Now, as a result, I'm not going to rule that out for other quarterbacks, so bear that in mind. There is going to be consistency here, at least to some degree. Now, the offensive system with Bobby Sloat didn't quite fit his play style. I don't think he's now gone, so I'm hopeful in that sense. But the offensive line in Houston is really, really concerning to me. But then again, we added Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll. That's, Jalen Knoll especially, I think, with those CJ Stroud signature deep bombs, which usually went to Tank Dell. Knoll's going to get a lot of that. And back in 2023 in his rookie season, CJ Stroud was one of the best deep ball throwers in the league. Especially and I'm talking 20 plus yards down the field. He took a big step back there last year with, Tank Dell injured for most of the season. Nico Collins also missed significant time. We were down to wide receiver 4 for some games. I think you saw that's where that impacted Stroud. Definitely the supporting cast getting worse did not help him. I do think that Stroud can offset a bad offensive line in the same way that Joe Burrow can, but there's definitely less room for error there. I thought previously Stroud was going to be a top 8 quarterback. I think you've probably seen that range is a little bit bigger, maybe, with Stroud after this season. I'm backing my boy here. I'm going to put him in the great category still, because I think that even for some of the bad games that we did get from Stroud in 2024, I still do think that he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league. So he is going to go in that great tier. But towards the back of it, I would say the offensive line does worry me, definitely. But I'm backing my boy, like I said, Joe Flacco. This guy's a dependable backup, right? I think he shouldn't be anywhere near starting. He might be a decent bridge for a few games if you want to get a rookie in there. We'll talk about the Browns quarterback situation in just a few quarterbacks, which you can see at the bottom there. He's your start, but if he's a starter, you need to upgrade, so I'm putting him in good backup. Now, Kirk Cousins, this guy's ability to make money, second to none. You've got to respect the hustle from this guy. He looked terrible in 2024. He was benched for Michael Penix, despite having a price tag of $100 million guaranteed. That takes quite some doing. For an NFL team, which is a business, to put $100 million on the bench for a rookie they drafted, yes, with the 8th overall pick, but they were not expecting him to start as soon as that, is quite something. Clearly, the Achilles was giving him some trouble. He only had 13 big-time throws and 24 turnover-worthy plays in his time last year in Atlanta. You can't start with that stat line. You simply can't. He was rightly benched. Now, I think he can be a serviceable quarterback when he's healthy. It's just a question of if he's going to get back there. He's definitely not what he once was. Is he a replacement starter? I think it'd be harsh to put Kirk Cousins in there, maybe, but considering what we saw from him in 2024 and the fact that he was never exactly the most physically gifted quarterback anyway, I think right now I'd put him in the replacement starter tier. He's been good, don't get me wrong, but he's no spring chicken anymore, and that injury is concerning to me. So, yeah, we'll put Kirk there, I think, for now. Now, Aiden O'Connell, I like this guy coming out of Purdue. I thought he might be able to carve out a starting role. Hasn't quite been able to, but I think as a backup, you kind of like that from like a 4th round pick. Can't really complain. Now, Shedeur Sanders. These training camp clips are already killing me. I cannot bear an offseason around more discussion about Shedeur Sanders. I'm already bored of it. He was still at pick 144. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a starting quality quarterback in the NFL. Not sure he's a great fit with Kevin Stefanski, both on and off the field. Frankly, again, considering the Aaron Rodgers thing, like I said, I am bringing that into play here. I think he'll see some playing time, but I think the Browns are going to replace him next year anyway. They traded back to get a 2026 first round pick in next year's draft. So I think the way the Browns see him, he's a replacement level quarterback as a starter. Might seem harsh. Should Sanders fans don't come for me? That's just how I see it. Now, Daniel Jones. I am a sly Daniel Jones truther. I'm not going to lie. I think he's overrated. I think this guy's become a meme. I think it's like cool to hate on Daniel Jones. Don't get me wrong. He was seriously overpaid by the Giants when he was a point and shoot quarterback for Brian Daboll in that one good year the Giants had with Daniel Jones. And, he capitalized on that, and fair play to him for getting his bag. I don't think he's as bad, though, as people now make him out to be. So I kind of think that he'll be all right. I think that he has a chance to start in Indianapolis as well, for what it's worth. And I think he could look decent as well with those offensive weapons. The Shane Steichen offense, he's still a threat with his legs to run on the ground. Like, he can make the short throws. I honestly think that we'll talk about Anthony Richardson when we get to him. But I think that Daniel Jones could do more in this offense, frankly. Now, that being said, he can be a starter. I don't see him being particularly good, though. So I would replace Daniel Jones. But would I Daniel Jones or Kirk Cousins? Really, I'm putting Kirk Cousins in front of Daniel Jones. Hendon Hooker, right? The fact that this guy, Nico Iamaleava left because partially, right, because the Tennessee offense does not translate to the NFL. Hendon Hooker, Tennessee quarterback, he's no exception. And the fact that they got Teddy Bridgewater off the street to be their backup when Goff actually missed time shows that he's a replacement backup quarterback. Now, Lamar Jackson. I used to be, in my heyday, thankfully not on this channel, but in my heyday, I used to be a Lamar Jackson doubter. I'm going to hold my hands up, right? I've seen the light, not anymore. This guy is a one-of-one player in how he plays. No one in the league plays like this guy. Not even close. Genuinely not even close, I don't think. And I would go as far as to say he's one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks ever. He's a two-time MVP winner, could have had a third. We'll talk about that with Josh Allen. 35 big-time throws, only 10 turnover-worthy plays. That was the best ratio in the league. He had 551 rushing yards. As an athlete, when you see good athletes in college, they stand out, and that doesn't really happen in the NFL. I mean, how many good athletes have we seen just not be good NFL players? Lamar Jackson looks like an NFL-level athlete playing against college people, even when he's playing in the NFL. That's how, and it's just a different level of athlete he is. I genuinely think he's the best athlete in the league. His pocket movement is insane because of that mobility and that athleticism. He's so hard to sack, so hard to tackle. He is just so good. He is clearly a top 2 or top 3 quarterback in the league, and you'll see where I rank him when I get to all my elite quarterbacks, so I'm sure we all know who they are, but you don't know my rankings yet within them. I mean, he is an elite quarterback, 100%, no questions asked. This guy's absolutely insane. I can't believe I ever thought he wasn't as good as he really is. He has taken loads of steps, particularly as a passer. But, I mean, Lamar Jackson is a different gravy. It is a different gravy. Now, Joe Milton, I refuse to fall victim to the Joe Milton hype. I refuse. I know he had a good game against the Bills in Week 18 for the Patriots. I know he can do a backflip. I know he can throw it 70 yards lying down, or whatever the hell it is with Hendon Hooker. I don't care, right? Screw that. He is an intriguing backup with good physical tools, is what Joe Milton is, fundamentally. His measurements are off the charts: 93rd percentile height, 89th percentile weight, 93rd percentile wingspan. This guy's insane, right? He's basically an Anthony Richardson light, if you will. But he wasn't a good quarterback at Tennessee, and I've already said Tennessee quarterbacks don't really translate to the NFL. People might hate this, but I'm going to put him ahead of Hendon Hooker. But I don't think he's going to be a good backup. I don't. And I know I've seen a game and it was great, but I think if we saw more than that, it wouldn't be. Davis Mills, definition of a fine backup. I would have him ahead of Aiden O'Connell. Brock Purdy. Now, he had a very different 2024 than he did in 2023. No Christian McCaffrey, obviously, for the whole season, essentially. Ayuk was out with an injury as well. The offense changed massively as a result. Purdy completely overhauled his play style. Interestingly, had a really high time to throw, almost 3 seconds, 2.99 seconds, which is very high. Christian McCaffrey was his safety blanket over the middle of the field. Checking down to Christian McCaffrey wasn't a check down. It was basically almost getting a first down, depending on the down and distance. That's how good CMC is. And the 49ers offense was plagued with injuries. The team was plagued with injuries. And I think it's fair to say that Brock Purdy's play declined as the situation around him declined. As I said, with someone like CJ Stroud, that's not a knock, that's just the reality. Playing with a worse supporting cast probably makes you play worse as a quarterback. Weirdly, he became a fantastic scrambler, which, again, is what I'm saying. He changed his play style completely, and that's definitely a positive, which I'm sure the 49ers will want to use going forward. And look, he had a really tough year. The 49ers underperformed, as I said, with a bad team, but Purdy was a part of that. You kind of can't get around that, right? Whether it's chicken or egg, which one came first? Did the 49ers underperform because Purdy underperformed? Or did Purdy perform because the 49ers underperformed? Who knows? But I do think it's fair to say that Purdy's play wasn't as good as previously. And I think he is, a good quarterback, but you can't deny that parts of Purdy's game, the value that he brought to the table was the fact that he was being paid pennies to be a pretty good NFL quarterback. He's now not going to be paid pennies, and we're already seeing that bill kind of come due for the 49ers. So, look, he's definitely a good quarterback. I'm definitely taking him ahead of... Would I take him ahead of Rodgers? Yeah, I would take Purdy ahead of Rodgers right now. So let's put Purdy ahead of Rodgers. But I don't think he's a great quarterback. I think what made him great was the value of the contract, and that's gone now. I think you have to be realistic about that. Zach Wilson, no, replacement level backup. He's wearing 0. I'll put him ahead of Hendon Hooker. But this guy, daylight robbery at BYU in the COVID year, made a crazy throw at his pro day. Like I said, now wears number 0 in Miami. Let's just forget Zach Wilson ever happened. Jimmy Garoppolo, I think he's the definition of a good backup. I'd put him probably behind Joe Flacco, I reckon. What concerns me in LA is that he's also old. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be 33 this season. Sure, Matthew Stafford's no spring chicken. You'd kind of like a bit of youth there, but in a vacuum, as his own player, Jimmy G's a good backup. Now, Jalen Hurts, Super Bowl winner, but I'm not really someone that cares about accolades. I'm going to level with you here. That doesn't really come into play. Joe Flacco has won a Super Bowl. He's in the good backup tier. Aaron Rodgers, he's won a Super Bowl. He's behind Brock Purdy, who hasn't. Miss me with the whole kind of accolades equals good. Don't get me wrong, if you are good, you will probably have some accolades, but I think if you don't have any accolades, that doesn't mean you're not good, if that makes sense. It doesn't work both ways like that, for me anyway. I'm obviously taking Hurts above Rodgers, above Flacco, for what it's worth. Now, we've seen Hurts at his best with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, and we've seen him at his worst in 2023 when the Eagles imploded in the back half of the season. There was no answer for the blitz. Not all of that's on Hurts. It's obviously on the coach. It's on the offensive coordinator and the head coach. But I think a little bit of that is definitely on Hurts, it's fair to say. But even then, in that bad season, he was 12th in DVOA, which is basically something that measures how an offense is comparing to the rest of the league, basically. So his floor as a passer is slightly above average. I think that's fair to say. And his rushing threat means that this guy is seeing stacked boxes, which means that A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith more than likely have a one-on-one somewhere. So that is a force multiplier. That rushing threat is a force multiplier. He's not elite, but I would say Hurts is a top 10 guy. And I would take Hurts ahead of Purdy. Yeah, I'd take Hurts ahead of Purdy. That's fair. Malik Willis, he's a good backup. I'm taking him. No, I'm going to keep Flacco ahead just because Willis is really great in Matt LaFleur's offense. He didn't really look great out of that. So we'll keep him in there. Now, Kenny Pickett, Super Bowl winner. Like I said, he took snaps. Can't take that away from him. That's why the whole Super Bowl argument is ridiculous. He's surplus for requirements. I think he's going to be a backup in the Browns quarterback room, and I don't think he's going to really be the one that they want to keep. So I'm going to put him in the replacement backup ahead of Joe Milton. Tyler Shook, I think he could show something. The rookie from Louisville who now plays for the Saints. I liked him as a prospect. He was overdrafted. I think he will be QB1 considering Derek Carr is now retired. But again, I think he's probably going to get replaced next offseason if the Saints have a high enough draft pick. So by that definition, he is a replacement level starter. I would put him ahead of Kirk Cousins just because I think there's something intriguing about Shook with his physical talents, but he's also just as injured. Let's leave it at that. Justin Herbert. Okay, Justin Herbert is the king of if, buts, and maybes. I get it. But I believe in him. I do. I think his physical traits, his arm strength, his arm talent, I think there's two slightly nuancedly different things. I think arm strength is kind of just the velocity, and then I think arm talent is the ability to like layer throws and things like that, the kind of the touch you put on passes. they're both one of the best in the league, I think, his arm talent. And he's a great athlete as well. I think he, with his arm strength, is top 3 in the league with the likes of Mahomes and Josh Allen. I think he's seriously good. Like, this guy can hit a cover 2 hole shot like no one else in the league. And he has NPC receivers, barring Ladd McConkey. But I mean, Will Disley dropping passes against, who was it, when he threw like a 40-yard touchdown and he fumbled it through the end zone for a touchback? The receiver fumbled it. Like, watching a Chargers game is like a comedy of errors. And none of that, I think, is due to the fault of Herbert. Is he flawless? No, by no means. He has his flaws, don't get me wrong. And I know he has no playoff wins. But I don't care. It's a team sport, even at quarterback. Yes, there's an element of projection here, don't get me wrong. But he passes the eye test for me. Herbert passes the eye test. I'm putting him behind Joe Burrow. If you've got a problem, you can let me know in the comments. And all I'm going to say is, everyone's entitled to their opinions. But if you disagree with me, your opinion is wrong. Bryce Young. This guy's career, back on track. We love to see it. And I think him with Xavier Legette, him with Jimmy Horn now, him with Ted McMillan now, Jalen Coker previously, Adam Thielen, I think he's going to look really good this year. We're not there yet. Right, I think I need to see a little bit more from Bryce Young before I'm ready to really... I got burnt too badly. I really loved Bryce Young coming out of Alabama. I was pounding the table. I think his playmaking ability at Bama was one of the things that I love in a quarterback, something that I think to a degree you kind of can't coach, that ability to make plays out of structure, those X-factor plays. But you kind of saw that kind of coming back. Against Kansas City, he looked fantastic. Against the Falcons in the shootout in Week 18, he looked absolutely phenomenal. So I'm going to put him in good, but watch this space for him to become better than that. Would I take Bryce Young ahead of Rodgers? Yeah, I would. Sorry, Rodgers. I just don't love the off-field stuff. Dylan Gabriel, he'll be a nice backup. But the Browns, as you can see, already have a quarterback there. That's for them to work out. Cam Ward, I think he has the physical tools to be a great NFL quarterback, which is why he was my QB1. But he's not the QB1 which you would expect in a normal draft class. So he's not quite as strong as, say, a Caleb Williams or even a Drake May. So I think he could definitely be good. But for now, I'll put him ahead of Brock Purdy, behind Brock Purdy, ahead of Bryce Young. I like the physical tools. We'll see what happens with him. Gardner Minshew. Sam Darnold, sorry. I think that I predicted last year that Sam Darnold would have a career resurgence with Kevin O'Connell. You can go back and check on this channel. I said it. It was my idea. I started it. And I wished he'd kind of stayed in Minnesota, taken a bit more of a team-friendly deal. I don't know if that was, if the Vikings were ready to move on and start J.J. McCarthy, or if Darnold wanted the money. Either way, I think the best outcome for maybe both parties would have been Darnold staying in Minnesota. I think he really suited the Kevin O'Connell offense. And I do think, though, for what it's worth, that the 2024 version of Darnold is the real Darnold and not the, rest of his career, 2018 to 2023 Darnold. I know one sample size is much bigger than the other, but I think we saw it for a whole season, and that for me is enough. And I just think that he needed not the Jets and someone actually fairly competent to give him a chance and build a decent offense around him. And I think in Seattle, he has that with Clint Kubiak's offense, with Cooper Kupp, with Jackson Smith and Jigba. I like what he can do there. The interior offensive line does concern me. They did draft Gray Zabel. He'll help that a little bit, but he is a quarterback that is susceptible to interior pressure, definitely. I think he's good. I don't think he's as good as Purdy, so I'll put him behind Purdy there, I think. Now, Geno Smith. This guy is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. Point blank, hands down, no questions asked. I don't get how Seahawks fans thought that this guy was the problem for their offensive woes last year. He's not just a comeback story like Sam Darnold. This guy is a legitimately great, and I mean great, NFL quarterback. He has arrogant arm talent. And again, that's not necessarily arm velocity. He can just fit this ball into windows that really aren't possible for, I would say, 95% of the quarterbacks in the league. And I genuinely mean that. His pocket movement is so great. He's not immobile, don't get me wrong, he's not Lamar Jackson, but his ability to manipulate the pocket, buy himself a few more seconds, is just such a veteran move. He steps up to avoid the rush. He can create space to make the throws. He can hit tight window throws. He was 10th in big time throw percentage in 2024 at 4.5%. In 2023, he was third in big time throw percentage at 6%. And in 2022, he was third in big time throw percentage at 5.4%. This guy for the last 3 years has been one of the better deep ball throwers in the league. It's as simple as that. He's also great at avoiding sacks. That's what kept the Seahawks offense afloat last year. He can, like, that was a single-handed move from him. I think that this guy is just so good. Per Pro Football Reference, he was the most accurate quarterback last year with an 81% accuracy rate. This guy's a firm top 10 quarterback for me. He is definitely going in the great category. I'm putting him ahead of Kyler Murray as well, for what it's worth. Like, I think Geno Smith, like I said, criminally underrated, genuinely great, genuine top 10 guy. Disagree with me? Let me know in the comments, but you're wrong. Gardner Minshew, let this meme die. He wears jorts, he's got a moustache. It might have been a COVID thing. There wasn't a lot of content. I don't know. Fair play, he made a career out of it. Good for him. He is not a starter, though. He is a fine backup, and I would take him just ahead of Aiden O'Connell. So Sam Howell, he is a fine backup. I think I think he will be all right for the Vikings in a pinch. I'll put him ahead of Davis Mills. Dak Prescott, another overhated quarterback. He was legitimately and rightly an MVP candidate in 2023. Had a big time throw percentage of 5.9% with a turnover worthy play percentage of 2.2. That's absolutely fantastic. Cowboys as a whole had a terrible year last year. I know Dak hasn't got it done in the playoffs. I know that's the meme. I know we love all hating on the Cowboys for that. Don't get me wrong. I greatly enjoy it too. But if we're being intellectually honest here, because this is what this is, an intellectual exercise, he's a good quarterback. He is a good quarterback. And I think now with CeeDee Lamb, with another weapon in George Pickens, so Lamb isn't just getting triple teamed every play and isn't able to do anything, I think this offense will improve. And I think Dak will be able to show that. I think Dak is just behind Purdy, I would say. I think they're quite similar, weirdly enough, as quarterbacks. Maybe. Jordan Love, this guy got paid for being a top 7 quarterback in 2023. He had 37 big-time throws. That was 3rd in the league. Didn't quite play like that in 2024, though. Only had 17 big-time throws, and he had a higher turnover-worthy play percentage. This guy's got unreal arm talent. There's that play against Houston, which, watching it from every angle I could find, the broadcast, the all-22 field version, and like behind the quarterback, I actually don't know the technical terms of those. It doesn't look possible how he fits that touchdown in that window. It's a crazy throw, and that's because his arm strength is so good. He does make mental errors, though. He had 3 interceptions against Philadelphia. One where he misdiagnosed the zero blitz, got picked off by Reed Blankenship, and there was another fade which didn't have enough juice on it. I think he's right on the cusp. I think you kind of have to put him around where CJ is. But I wouldn't take him ahead of Hurts. I probably would take him ahead of Purdy, though. I think they're right around the same. Is Purdy going to be a top 10 guy when it's all said and done? I don't know. We'll find out. Taylor Heinicke, fun backup with the Chargers. Can't hate it. Put him ahead of Gardner Minshew. Caleb Williams, this guy had a bad rookie season. No way to sugarcoat that. Bears fans love pointing to his lack of interception rate. Great. Doesn't really matter because he wasn't throwing the ball. Like, in a vacuum, sure, having a low percent turnover worthy play or a low interception rate is a good thing. But if you look at the wider picture, it really isn't. Like I said, he had a low interception rate because he wasn't throwing the ball. He wasn't seeing the field. He was late or inaccurate with throws. He had the 3rd highest bad percentage throw rate, which is basically an inaccurate throw per Football Reference, at 21%. He took an insane amount of sacks. He had the highest pressure to sack rate. Again, that's when a pressure becomes a sack. A lot of the times the quarterbacks own their own sack rate because if you hold onto the ball, you're more likely to get sacked. So him not getting the ball out quickly meant that he got sacked more, and that is his fault. And that was 28.2%. That's so high. That was almost 4% higher than someone in 3rd, and it's quite a narrow range. So to be 4% higher is really, really bad. And you can put that down to bad coaching. Absolutely. It is, but it is basic quarterbacking to not take a massive sack on 4th down, which he did, and to try and get the ball off in the dying seconds of the game, which he also didn't do. So it really wasn't good. Like I said, you can put it down to bad coaching, but you also have to admit that a lot of the Bears' offensive woes do lie on Caleb Williams' shoulders. Now, I believe in him. I believe in the talent he has. I think that he is more likely going to be the quarterback we saw at USC than the one we saw last year with the Bears. So it's a really tricky one of where I'm going to rank Caleb Williams. I would kind of like him here. I think that's fair. at this point. I do think that ranking Caleb behind Dak, knowing what we know about him from USC, knowing what we saw from him from Oklahoma, like we know he's a good quarterback. I'm not ignoring the college tape. Projection, but I feel comfortable with it. Spencer Rattler, this guy should be the Saints starting quarterback. I don't know why he isn't. I don't think he's better than Shook necessarily, but I don't think he's that much worse. I think he is a potential starter for the Saints, but he's a replacement level starter. But I think he's better than Shedeur Sanders. Oof. Yeah, he's got the tools. Let's say it. Patrick Mahomes. Okay, let's have the conversation. He's the best quarterback in the league. Special plays are off the charts. This guy is a big time player. Yes, he lost the Super Bowl last year. No, I don't really care about that. He's 17-4 in the playoffs. He's got 3 Super Bowls. He's got 3 Super Bowl MVPs. He's got 2 regular season MVPs. This guy is rivaling Tom Brady for being one of the GOATs. What are we doing here? If Patrick Mahomes is not your QB1, then I'm sorry, you're too much of a homer as a Josh Allen's fan. If you're a Bills fan, you're too much of a homer if you're a Lamar Jackson fan. Those are the only 2 guys that come close, frankly, and I love all of them, and I love Joe Burrow. But it is Patrick Mahomes as the best quarterback in the league. As a down year, Patrick Mahomes made it to the Super Bowl. He won the AFC in arguably the worst year in his career. He is the boogeyman. He's the Baba Yaga. He from John Wick. This guy is what NFL defenses fear. And he is elite. He is the best quarterback in the league. And I think, genuinely, I'm joking about the other opinion stuff. If Patrick Mahomes is not QB1 for you in this exercise, you don't know ball. I'm sorry, that's just how it is. Now, JJ McCarthy, I need to stop saying now. JJ McCarthy, I think he's going to be absolutely fine this year. I think he's going to play pretty well, actually, for what it's worth. But we don't really know what it's going to look like. He looked great in one preseason game. He sat this year, but that means that since he was injured, he didn't actually get the starting reps, and I think he needs to get that. I think it's only fair to kind of put him behind these 2 guys, not because I necessarily think he's going to play worse than them. He might play better than them, especially with the weapons that he has. My God. But we've just seen so little of him. I do think it's going to be good, but there's nothing to really project. At Michigan, it was so run heavy, so really working off very little things here. But I do think he's going to be good. Andy Dalton, he's not good enough as a starter. He is a very good backup, though. I'd put him ahead of Joe Flacco here, personally. Now, Anthony Richardson. I need to stop saying now. Anthony Richardson. He looks like Tarzan, plays like Jane. He has physical tools for days, this guy, but he can't hit water if he fell out of a boat. He had the lowest on-target pass percentage at only 58%. Almost half of this guy's throws were uncatchable, and that was the lowest by 10%. It isn't even close as to who is the least accurate quarterback in the NFL. It is by a country mile Anthony Richardson. He can throw a beautiful deep ball, but will then miss on a 5-yard slant. Richardson is all over the place developmentally. There was no meaningful steps taken last year. I know he missed most of his rookie season. I don't think we saw development from him last year, and that is really concerning to me. And he's also a great rushing threat, don't get me wrong, but he gets injured while running. So the clock has definitely started for Richardson. I think Colts fans need to be aware of that. Daniel Jones, I think, will compete for this starting job, and I think I think Richardson will get benched this season. So by definition, I think he's a replacement level starter, and I'm going to put him behind Daniel Jones. I know we can throw it 67 yards to Alec Pierce and score against my Texans in, a beautiful throw. But that is 3% of the throws you have to make in the NFL. That kind of throw. You need to be able to hit the short and intermediate areas of the field. Anthony Richardson cannot do that. Baker Mayfield, as you can see behind me, one of my favorite players of all time, got me into the game. That's how I started watching and following college in the NFL, is because of Baker Mayfield. Absolutely love this guy. Love that his career is stabilized in Tampa Bay. Still quite volatile as a quarterback. He can only throw rockets. There's no touch there. They're always piss missiles. But I love his personality. I love his play style. That is blinding me here. But it's fun to be a fan sometimes. So this guy's a good quarterback. I would put him ahead of Caleb Williams now, I think. I think that's a fair place for Baker Mayfield. But it's all said and done. Matthew Stafford. This is where the 2025 context is so key, because if it was even 2026, I think you can't rely on Matthew Stafford to even be a starting quarterback. Not because he doesn't have the talent, just because his body's going to give out on him. For this year, though, I think we can assume that his body's going to hang in there just about for one more year. And he is the inventor, if you will, of no-look passes. This guy can do the no-look passes, tight window throws, big-time throws. He's so underappreciated for what he does, I think. And I think he could win another Super Bowl this year, genuinely, if the stars align. I think he, right now, is a great quarterback. I would put him behind Geno Smith. God, is Geno going to finish? Is Geno going to be... I'm going to review it at the end, but no, we've still got some guys. We've still got one guy that could be ahead of him. Oh, I'm high on Geno Smith. Jayden Daniels, again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I was wrong about Jayden Daniels, at least in how he played last year. I really thought that the Washington Commanders would be terrible. Jayden Daniels was a massive reason as to why they weren't. He had one of the best rookie quarterback seasons maybe ever. His deep ball immediately translated. He throws one of the prettiest deep balls in the league. It's so good. His rushing and his scrambling translated. And what was massive for, I think, his step from the college level to the NFL was that in college he took a lot of sacks. His pressure to sack rate when taking out scrambles was 30% in college. In the NFL, it was down to 19%. And per Seth, on X, he had the best sack mitigation in the league. So basically, when and how do you get sacked? Because, a sack on, let's say, before the half when you're down 7 on 3rd and 10 in field goal range, take you out of field goal range, is a really costly sack. If it's a sack to, basically not as costly, then that's a better sack mitigation, if you will. There are some good sacks, there are some bad sacks. Joe Burrow was talking about that once, about how if he's going to try and make a play and it's, 3rd and 10, he's going to hold on to the ball to try and get the first down. A 5-yard pass isn't going to really help the offense there. You're going to look to take that shot. That's not a bad sack to take either. Jalen, where are we going to put Jayden Daniels? That's the real question. I don't think he's great yet. I mean, he had a great season. And he was great in college. Would I take him ahead of Jalen Hurts? Oh, God, this is where it gets spicy. I think that's fair for Jayden Daniels. I think he might... Look, sophomore slump is real. If you told me that Bryce Young last year was going to outplay CJ Stroud, I would have told you you're a liar. But that can happen. It hasn't happened, and it might not happen. So I'm going to keep him there. Oh, God. Look, as a kind of Jayden Daniels hater, I'm not actually, but as someone that gets painted as a Jayden Daniels hater, having him there, silencing the haters. Jalen Milroe, I think he's going to be a very fun backup. Offers a lot of intriguing athletic tools, but definitely couldn't start right now. We'll put him ahead of Jimmy G because he's funner. Tua Tagovailoa, I think it's Tua Tagovailoa. See what I did there? I think we've seen Tua's ceiling, frankly, which was being a good quarterback with 2 elite receivers in a regular season kind of realm. He's good from weeks 1 to 17, but when it gets cold and they got to go on the road in the playoffs, he's not good. And he's got a really extensive injury history, really serious injury history. I genuinely worry for him. I don't want to see him get another concussion because I think that would, limit his potential life outlook after the game of football. Now, I hope that isn't the case. I'm no doctor, but I mean, we've all seen the seriousness of those injuries that he sustained. I kind of wish for his sake that he wasn't playing, but it's up to him. He can make his own decisions. But I think he's a less efficient, less effective Jared Goff. And I think he is, at this point now, a replacement starter. I think he's at the top of that list. Don't get me wrong. Like, look, Tua can play well. But I think the Dolphins, if they could, would move on from him if they had a high pick in the draft next year. So that makes him a replacement level starter. Trevor Lawrence, I'm a Trevor truther. He's never quite been able to put it together. But with Liam Cohen now, with Travis Hunter, with Brian Thomas Jr., I think we're going to see the Trevor Lawrence that we've all been expecting. I got a lot of quarterbacks in this good tier. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this good tier. He's definitely not going to be in the great tier. Now, it's where do I put Trevor in that good tier? I think realistically he's going to be ahead of... I think that's fair. Behind Sam Darnold, who showed maybe more on the field, but has the good physical tools. I quite like that. Mac Jones, negative aura. This guy's negative aura. Like the way he plays the game on the field, he can be a bit of a dirty player. Backup quarterback, replacement level. I don't really care for Mac Jones. Jameis Winston, the 40 for 40 season will go down in history Great character, love him on the media. He has a future there, but he is a good backup at this point. Put him behind Joe Flacco. Russell Wilson, again, this is kind of Russ's last attempt at the, last chance at the OK Corral, if that's the phrase, I've got that right. This is last chance at being a starting NFL quarterback. He was already going downhill in his final year with Seattle in 2021. Then 2022 at the Broncos was a disaster. 2024 kind of steadied the ship a little bit. But personally, I'm not really willing to bet that a 36 turning 37-year-old is going to show anything meaningful in terms of being a starting level quarterback. So I think he is a replacement starter. And I would have to before Russ, I think. Drake May, he played really well in one of the worst situations I've ever seen for a rookie quarterback. He had a bad offensive line, he had terrible weapons, and he had awful coaching. And that coaching staff got fired after a single year, and the offensive weapons got overhauled in a single offseason, and the offensive line got 2 new additions to it. So they knew it was bad, the new Patriots regime, and they addressed those holes. But he genuinely, despite that, looked good. Like, he played really well. He made some unbelievable throws, a lot of which, by the way, weren't even caught, so you wouldn't see it on a usual highlight reel. And he made, like, that huge play against Tennessee where he was holding onto the ball for, like, 8 seconds. He has that X factor, that playmaking ability when the chips are down and you need a quarterback to make a play. Drake May is one of, like, the 7 guys that I would choose to make that. CJ Stroud would be up there with his playmaking ability in 2023. He had like 3 game-winning drives. I'd definitely have Matthew Stafford there, Geno Smith, Justin Herbert, Joe Burrow. I'll have those guys. Josh Allen, obviously. But Drake May's definitely top 10 in that regard, I would say. And I'm willing to put this guy at the tail end of great. Oh, is he better than Jalen Hurts? Jalen Hurts is the one that's throwing me because I don't think that Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. I think we've seen Jalen Hurts' ceiling. This is going to ruffle some feathers. I know it. But if I'm being honest with myself, I would rather have Drake May next year than Jalen Hurts. Now, yes, there's projection there. Eagles fans, I know. Right now, Jalen Hurts is better. But I just think that the playmaking ability of May is special, and I think it is up there with the guys that are in that great tier, and I think that is what limits Hurts. I do think he prefers a simpler style of offense. I think he can be a little bit, two-dimensional because he can throw and he can run, but I don't think he really offers like a special playmaking ability, like out of structure. And if you put Drake May with those weapons in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith, would we see a similar level of play? I think we would. I'm going to stick with it. Jackson Dart, he's not ready to start this year. He's going to be a good backup. Hasn't really taken snaps under center. Might develop and might be a starter, but I'll put him ahead of Jameis because he's going to be fun. Yeah, I'll put him ahead of Flacco as well. Yeah, I like his tools. He is young. He's exciting at least. Flacco kind of gives you a level of certainty, but I think right now he's a good backup. He could be more than that in a few years' time. Justin Fields, big Justin Fields guy. I think he'll bring a higher floor with that rushing threat to the Jets offense this year. But he's a bridge quarterback at best right now, which means, again, that he is a replacement starter because they are going to replace him. And he is not quite as good as Russ, I would say, as a passer overall. Better than Shook. I think that's a fair place to put Justin Fields. And finally, left a big one for last, for the final one. That is Josh Allen for the Bills. Him winning MVP was the right decision. I don't care who knows it. I know that it was close with him and Lamar. Maybe Lamar statistically might have edged it. But this guy deserves an MVP. Call me a participation trophy stan. I don't care. Josh Allen is that good. He did deserve it. He is a big play magnet. With his arm, he is constantly one of the most aggressive, but not in a careless way. He's like a cautiously, but that's not really the word that I'm looking for. He is aggressive but not reckless, I think is what I want to say with Josh Allen. And in 2024, he had a 7% big time throw rate. In 2023, 6.2% big time throw rate. 2022, 7.6% big time throw rate. This guy can spin it like no one else in terms of pushing the ball deep down the field into tight windows. Versus LA, the Rams, and Detroit last year, he went nuclear. He had over 700 passing yards in those 2 games, 5 passing touchdowns, 7 big-time throws, 5 rushing touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and 0 turnover-worthy plays. Find me a better 2-game streak, genuinely, and that is what Josh Allen is capable of. He is a one-man wrecking crew on offense, and I think he, more so than anyone else on this list, embodies that one-man wrecking crew style. And him and Lamar are QB 2A and 2B, but because I am a Josh Allen stan, I'm going to put him ahead here, but know that in the actual rankings, it is 2A and 2B. They are really neck and neck, and that is actually a massive compliment to Lamar Jackson because I do love Josh Allen. So, as you can see on the screen now, this is my QB rankings. We'll do the top 10. Patrick Mahomes QB1, Josh Allen QB2, Lamar Jackson QB3, Joe Burrow QB4, Justin Herbert QB5, Geno Smith QB6. Oh, that is spicy. Look, I'm here for it. I would have him ahead of Stafford. Would I have him ahead of Stafford? No. Right, we're going to put Stafford there. So Stafford's QB6, Geno Smith is QB7, Kyler Murray is QB8, CJ Stroud is QB9, Jaden Daniels is QB10. People that just missed out, Drake May, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, Brock Purdy. I think there's a cutoff after Purdy and maybe Prescott there for the next kind of tier down. Maybe there would be like a kind of fringe of great, which would be these four, and then the rest are good. But you can see it on your screen now. If you agree or disagree, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of disagreements in this one. Let me know in the comments. We can maybe have a discussion about some of these if you're nice enough to me. Again, it's just my opinion. Let me know yours in the comments. Do you agree, disagree? Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe for more off-season content. As I said, we're going to do wide receiver rankings, running back rankings, tight end rankings. All of these are going to be coming right at you this off-season, so stay subscribed to make sure you stay in the loop. But I've been your host, Dom Corbs. This has been Corbs NFL. I'll see you on the next video.